Welcome to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, podcast for innovators and problem solvers talking all things small business, entrepreneurship, and workforce development.
In this episode of The Vault at 201 North Broadway, we will be talking to a fourth-generation Montanan who grew up on a typical Montana ranch just south of Roberts. He has continued his family's tradition of agriculture by working for the USDA Farm Service Agency for 7 years, then becoming the director of the Food and Ag Development Center, and then taking on a bigger role of being the executive director for Beartooth RC&D.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, and community development.
Welcome, Joel Bertolino.
Glad to be here.
What a fun last name.
It is a really cool last name.
It's good.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I'm
fun.
glad.
Is it Italian?
It is, yeah. Very Italian. Yeah.
I've got DeBellas and Riggios in my family, so also very
wow.
Italian.
That's terrific. Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah, typical coal mining family for Red Lodge, Montana. Yep.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's learn all about you. Tell us about you.
Yeah. Born and raised in little town, Roberts, Montana, just north of Red Lodge. Like I said, the family ended up there for the coal mines, and that's kind of the history. And grew up on a small ranch there. I'm still there now. But yeah, do you want work history and everything, or high school, or how deep are we going to go?
Did you play basketball?
I did. Yeah.
I was going to say, what's your birthday? Let's start there.
Okay.
No,
I can give you that.
No.
I'm a Libra. Yeah.
Well, if you've listened to our podcast before, you know that we kind of want to know like a little bit about, what brought you to what you're doing today. So tell us about your childhood and that journey.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, 4 years of high school in Roberts High School. When I graduated, went to Montana State University.
Awesome. So you're a Bobcat
Go
fan?
Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Yep, Bobcat through and through. So I didn't really know what I wanted to go into there. Ended up going into political science with an emphasis on public administration, with the background, of course, in agriculture. So when I got out, I actually applied for and ended up with a position at the USDA Farm Service Agency in Carbon County.
Awesome.
So,
And Carbon County is Red Lodge, right?
Carbon County
Great.
is Red
Just
Lodge.
clarifying
Yeah.
that. Okay.
The office for the USDA Service Center is in Joliet there, though. And for people that don't know, the Farm Service Agency, kind of a sister agency to NRCS, which is the Natural Resource and Conservation Service. A lot of the programs are basically implementing programs that are developed through the Farm Bill. So price supports programs for agricultural producers. So that's a lot what we did there.
Oh, awesome. Well, great. Because you obviously had, growing up on a ranch, you had that experience, that love for agriculture.
Yeah, it was a good fit, I felt like. I enjoyed my time there. We got to touch a lot of different things from crop insurance programs, crop disaster, livestock disaster programs. I even got trained a little bit in commodity loans and GIS mapping, digital mapping. They converted a lot of the maps while I was there from those big aerial 24 by 36 inch physical maps to the actual digital maps.
Which is so cool because my mom worked in something similar at the office, USDA and RCS district. And like the tables for the maps, right, were huge because you had these huge tables. And so like the digital mapping was huge.
It was a big improvement. Yeah. And they had, when I started there, the old school map tables that you would have to use, the old school techniques to measure parcels with. So yeah, getting all that transferred over to digital was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And now you can do like fencing and all of that kind of like.
The fence line boundaries, crop boundaries for cropping areas versus range and those kind of things, and come up with different uses for the land is what they're tracking, and then the actual acreages involved and those kind of things. So yeah.
So you worked there, and then what were the new, sorry, I can't even talk today, new opportunities that arose, or were you looking for something a little bit different?
I wasn't really. It was kind of strange. One of the guys that I worked with at the Farm Service Agency for a different county, and of course we knew each other. You'd go to a lot of the same trainings and those kind of things. At the time, they were looking to do some cuts to the agency, and so I was permanent, but I was only part-time, and I was actually working the other part-time for the county historical society.
Oh, awesome.
So as a historic preservation officer. So
ooh, yeah. What a title.
So that was interesting as well. But this friend of mine actually ended up quitting his job and getting a job right across the parking lot for Beartooth RC&D.
Oh, nice.
And I think he was there for a year or so when they had an opening for their egg position. And he thought of me and asked me out to lunch, and I didn't know anything about it. So asked a lot of questions and decided maybe that was something I'd be interested in. So that's how I ended up at Beartooth RC&D.
Oh, that's awesome. I always think about that, and I'm like, oh, I would have sat there and be like, do I get to taste these products? Okay.
Joel knows so much about the egg business and all the egg grants and
right.
So what
all
did that
stuff
role entail?
The Food and Egg Development Center role.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah, and so it went through different iterations. I started that in 2007. And at the time, they had started the program in about 2003. I think 2004 was the first full year. And they were egg innovation centers at that time. And that was a 3-year grant that was applied for by the governor, I think, at the time. And some of that funding was run through the Montana University system. When that grant was up, then they applied for another federal grant, the state Department of Ag did, and they became bioproduct innovation centers at the time.
Lots of name changes.
Yes. So egg innovation to bioproduct innovation. So that's what I came in under. And so that was unique in that there was an emphasis on renewable energy type projects in ag operations and value added as well. That lasted for about 3 years before that grant was up. And then we went to the state legislature and they started funding them and they became food and egg development centers.
Cool.
So, yeah, we've been rolling along ever since. When we first started, there was only, I think, 4 of them across the state. Then there became 6. And then they've expanded now to where there's 9 currently.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Beartooth then?
Since 2007.
2007. So a hot minute.
Just a little minute, yeah. Seems like just yesterday, right?
Yeah. Well, we keep throwing out Beartooth RC&D, and people are probably pretty curious. And like they've heard the Food and Ag Center, and we'll kind of jump into a little bit more about that. But let's hit that first question point and going. Question mark. Oh my gosh, where is my brain? Tell us about Beartooth RC&D.
Sure. I'm glad you hit that. I mean, we have a tendency to throw out a lot of acronyms. So
we love
acronym city.
We have when you get hired on with BSED, you get a sheet that explains all of our acronyms because there's like double sides.
We have one too. And I just updated it too because you have to update them.
Yeah. Right, because the government's like, oh, we're just like you were talking about. They're like, oh, no, we don't like that name anymore, so we're changing it.
Yeah, they change them constantly. And some that used to exist don't exist any longer. No, Beartooth RC&D started in 1968, and we're a nonprofit 501c3 regional economic development group. And so we receive funding from state and federal agencies to assist municipalities and small businesses for economic development purposes to create an environment for businesses to get started and to grow in our region and mostly rural region. So that's primarily what Beartooth is for. So they've been around for a while too.
Yeah.
What is that region? Like when you say region, you're located Roberts, Joliet, which are really close to each other, both Class C, I think.
Very good. I love the Class C history. We could go deeper into that.
She's from Ekalaka. She knows.
I love it.
She's a Carter County Bulldog.
Yep.
Yeah. But I was a Class C school
Class
too.
C? See, look at all of us Class C.
Yeah.
I was not.
I feel comfortable.
It's okay, Kayla. You're honorary Class C.
I was from the Luster Lions way up north.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great trivia question. I would have never got that mascot.
Yeah.
Or the Nashua Porcupines.
That's one of my favorites still.
So weird.
I just love driving into Nashua, and then you see the porcupine like right outside of a giant shed-looking
I know.
facility.
Yeah. I love the mascots. The porcupine's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your region.
So my region is 5 counties. And so Carbon County is one of them where our office is located. And then Sweetgrass, Stillwater, Yellowstone, and Bighorn counties. So it's a 5-county region primarily.
And that's a big region.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So yeah, we try and stay busy.
They cover, like, we overlap in ours. So we work with Joel and his team quite often because there's projects that we can partner on.
Right, absolutely. They're the local economic development group for Yellowstone County.
Mm-hmm.
So what are how big is your team, and what are some of their roles that those team members have?
Sure. So we've got 3.5 people that work for Beartooth RC&D currently. We've got an economic development director position that manages our EDA and our CRDC funding and those programs, and that's JC Head.
She's awesome.
She's great. And we've got a revolving loan fund that is managed by Nan Knight. And then Myrna Lastuski is kind of our executive assistant and helps all of us kind of stay on task.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys you do a lot.
We try
Your
to.
Your team cranks it out.
Yeah. It's, it's the workload, as anybody knows, is up and down. It seems like it can be going along fine, and then all of a sudden break loose and be overwhelming at times. Especially when there's disasters that you can't predict, COVID,
and
flooding, fires. Yeah, it's always something, it seems like.
Yeah.
So what was your guys' role, to talk a little bit about that, because it was recent, the flooding, the fire one year, and then the next year, the flooding. What's your organization's role within those things?
Well, we tried to provide information on different potential funding sources for some of those businesses that were affected. Department of Commerce had one program that we were able to go, visit with all the businesses. I think Nan and JC did a great job of taking a couple of days and just walking around and talking to businesses, handing out the information on some of those different programs that were available. So in those kind of cases, we try and act as a connector, a facilitator of sorts with, and that's really with a lot of different businesses that come to us. They just don't know where to start or don't know where to go to get the information or what's available for them. So that's a lot of what we did for that. And of course, we have a 24 member board of directors that includes all the county commissioners and city council representatives from our area. So it gives us an opportunity to stay up to date with them on some of the projects that are impacting those communities. And if we have some role that we can play within those projects, we make ourselves available to them to do those things.
Cool.
So, yeah, and that's still ongoing. We did recently receive funding from the Montana Community Foundation for mini grants that we'll be able to give out to some of these local groups that have popped up to help some of the people that were affected by the flood.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah,
great
because
assistance.
Some of the communities came together and gathered their own funds to issue out.
That's
which
right.
was so cool to see.
Oh, yeah, they did. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Fundraisers and other things. And I know in the ag world, a lot of the industry groups have done that as well and provided fencing and those kind of things, raised funds for that for producers that were affected by the flood.
So that makes me, so you've been with the organization since 2007.
Right.
What are some of your favorite parts of your job at Beartooth RC&D?
My favorite parts is really you're never doing the same thing very much each day. It's a little different, but it also gives me an opportunity to learn about some of these businesses. I'm helping them, trying to provide assistance, but at the same time, you really get an inside view, and that's what gives you a level of knowledge that continues to grow, is really just being able to sit down with them, work on business plans, any kind of grant resources. The application processes are, includes a lot of what you would see in a business plan and a lot of those application processes. It's not just grants too. Loans, we like to discuss. A lot of these businesses, the loan kind of arena is new to them or something that's scary to them.
Yep.
So being able to just sit down and explain to them how that works and how those loan applications are kind of viewed from the lender side. Some of those things are really helpful. All of those things, just working with those businesses and small businesses and then seeing them grow and succeed. I mean, that's a really fun thing to see.
And being part of that in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's our favorite thing. Oh, and everyone's probably wondering, Carly doesn't sound like Carly. It's not Carly today. It's Lorene today. So
special guest Lorene there. Yes.
You hear Lorene's voice. But yeah, I mean, that's what we say all the time is the best part is just getting to know these people, learning more about their business, and then, seeing them be successful. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome. Well, so we've touched on Beartooth and kind of the services they can help, but let's touch more specifically on what your role with the Food and Ag Center is.
Sure.
Can you tell people out there listening, like, what does the Food and Ag Center do? What are their specialties? If I'm a business, why would I contact you? Like, what would be the realm of that for Food and Ag?
Right. So the realm of that for Food and Ag Centers is any business that is adding value to Montana commodities. Is a business that we're kind of geared towards helping. And so sometimes that goes to financing like we talked about. Sometimes it's regulatory in nature and they just don't know who to turn to find out what kind of certifications they might need. So it's really pointing them in the direction of whether it be the Department of Health and Human Services for certain ones and contacts with the Department of Livestock for meat plants, meat processing.
There's a lot of rules and regulations for meat processing.
There is, yeah. And food safety trainings and those kind of things that we try and keep going and make sure that they're aware of what they need in order to get started or to expand in their businesses. Sometimes that's county sanitarians. There's a lot of different folks that are sometimes involved in those processes. But yeah, the Department of Ag is incredibly helpful, and they're our partner in these. That's where our funding comes from. So we try and stay up to date. We meet face-to-face with the Department of Ag, kind of go over what we're doing in the areas out here in the field. And they've been great to work with, and I think have been a great presence for a lot of these value-added businesses.
What are some of those businesses that you've helped in that realm that have stood out and they're a little more unique and not as traditional?
We've had a lot of different ones, and right now we also had received funding for specialty crops and specialty crop block grant to help small specialty crop type businesses. But there are unique ones, and you also see trends. I mean, unique to me is vineyards. I mean, we've helped some of those micro malters, those types of things. We help a lot of meat plants. We help a lot of microbreweries, distilleries. They all use a lot of Montana commodities and add value to them and add jobs. So those are kind of, they used to be unique, probably not so much anymore. But the vineyards still seems like it's pretty unique. There's been a little bit more in the hops realm. New right now is kind of hemp, and I haven't really dealt a lot with those yet, but I know other folks have in their areas. So those are kind of some of the ones that are maybe a little more unique, I guess.
Cool.
I love that. So with that, you keep mentioning grants.
Right.
I mean, and that is a word that Lorene and I hear, and I'm sure you hear all the time. I need a grant.
Right.
I need a grant. Well, let's talk about some of the grants that you guys have available for people that are listening in.
Right. So the grants don't usually come through us. We just help folks apply for those grants and give them the information as to whether their project that they're looking at would be a good fit for certain funding sources. Of course, the ones we deal with a lot are the ones through the state of Montana, the Department of Ag, the Grow Through Ag grants. And those will provide funding for startups and expansions. And they have one cycle per year. It starts now pre-application in October, and ends up in a face-to-face kind of. They get 7 or 8 minutes to discuss with the Ag Development Council that reviews them, ask questions, present their project, and that happens in February. So it just happened, and they just released the new recipients for this last go-around. They also added 2 different smaller grants to the Montana Growth Through Ag grant process. One's a business accelerator application for up to $20,000 over 2 years, and one's primarily for marketing for $5,000, smaller grant amount. We also work with USDA on the grants that they have through rural development. We've utilized those in the past as well, like their value-added producer grants, which are specifically for producers that are not just adding value, but are also producing the commodity is the key, and then adding value.
Are those grants real competitive? Do they?
They are, yeah. All of these grants, it seems like, have become more and more competitive. I can speak a little bit to the history of the Growth Through Ag because I think it's interesting. When I started in 2007, they had 4 cycles per year. There were quarterly applications. And sometimes they struggle to get a lot of applications. But the growth in the interest of that application has been phenomenal. And they've gotten to the point now where they got so many applications, they had to institute that pre-application process to kind of weed out some that they do that first, and then they go to a full grant application after that. But they've got a tremendous number of applications usually. The value-added producer grant has been pretty popular the last couple of years as well. It didn't used to be, but it seems like they get a lot of applications. Part of that is not just me, but all of the food and ag centers around the state have really targeted that as something at a source of potential funding for their application or applicants and their projects. So I think we were, I want to say like second in the nation for the amount of funds that we received in the last go around. So we've done a pretty good job, I think, working on that with our projects and trying to get funding for expansions and startups.
That's great.
So grants, lots of grants. What would you tell someone that's in that space how to like navigate that? Is that to just come to you guys and you'll help them, or what are some of your tips on how to navigate?
Yeah, that's what we usually say, and then we can sit down with them, provide them with the information. Of course, they have a great website too that goes through those grants and what the process is, what fits well and what doesn't, what you can use those funds for and what you can't. And the Growth Through Ag, by the way, is also not just a grant. They do have a loan portion to that as well. But I would give that advice that if they'd give us a call, we might be able to help kind of lead them through that process and discuss with them their project and what might be a good fit, if there is a good fit for what they're trying to do.
That's awesome. And we can also get clients connected with Joel. We work on some of those together. If
we do,
we'll help with the business plan portion, and then Joel takes on the rest of it.
Yeah, and they do a great job with business plans, and I love bringing them to Lorene and Kayla. Sometimes I'll sit down with them. Sometimes we're on Zoom together with different clients. So it works out really well because, like I said, regardless of if they're applying for a loan or a grant, the business plan is kind of a necessity.
Oh, definitely. We like to say it's a moving document. So it's your roadmap to your business, and it's living. It needs some TLC.
It needs
every
watered.
couple of months. Yeah, you just need to review it.
Yeah, I always like to say, when you have all those ideas in your head, nobody can read your mind.
Yeah.
And so you got to get them down on paper, and it really even helps the business owner themselves figure out what they're thinking.
I think that's the biggest value is just the process of going through it with them and having them think about all these different questions and projections and goals.
Yeah.
There's a real value to those business owners, I think. But yeah, it's great to work through it with you guys, and it's something, like you said, it's a living document. It's not you just do it once and then put it on a shelf. Hopefully you take a look at it once a year or every couple of years and see where you hit your targets, your goals, and if not, why not, those kind of conversations.
We just had a client we were working with, and business plan was last looked at in 2013.
The year I graduated.
Once every 10 years. Huh?
Yeah. We were like, you should probably revise that.
Yeah.
And I think some of your goals have changed. Statistics have probably changed.
You could use
your
an
industry's
update.
changed. Yeah. So, moral of that story: just check in with your business plan.
Right.
It likes to be talked to.
Yeah, it's a living document.
Well, I know the value added producer grant. It comes out like the application launches soon. No.
Yeah, we're expecting them to let us know when it's going to open. It usually we were thinking it should have been by the end of February, but it might be here in early March. And it looks like it's going to be due deadline in 1st of May sometime.
Oh, okay. So 1st of May.
So we've talked a lot about your work, but you earlier in our conversation, you talked about a family ranch.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of your, are you still ranching is my question.
I am. Yeah.
Ranching and doing the executive director. Like, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. It's
how's that? What's that like for you?
Yeah. 4 kids. Yeah. Still doing the ranch. Usually takes place before and after work and on weekends, obviously. And just started calving 2 weeks ago or so. So luckily didn't have too many through that really cold spell.
Yeah, that's rough.
I had a couple that might be missing ears, but
oh no.
Other than that, they're alive, so that's good.
That is good. I did not grow up in an ag world. So learning through these things has been interesting. And so I just, I went to a conference and learned how I want to say baby cows, but we don't say baby cows. They are calves.
See, you are learning. That's good.
I had to teach her that day. That's not a baby cow.
It's my goal.
There was one person in that room that didn't belong, and she was saying baby cows.
I think we need to get you to a branding.
It's a dead giveaway. Yeah.
What an experience that would be
for you. I think it'd be fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of different things that go into it, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And so you just kind of always have to be on it, especially like learning about calving season. Mm-hmm. That terrifies me.
Which part?
all of it.
Oh.
Well, you know what? Doesn't the like loving on the little babies.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I get attached.
Oh,
I know where my food comes from, but I couldn't. I'd be like, Bertha, you're mine now.
You're my pet. I'll feed you. You're around.
And she would learn to come to her name, and we'd take selfies, and it'd be a great experience.
Yeah, that might be troublesome.
Yes, because I learned at a younger age, you don't name them.
Right.
Because when I moved to Montana, I remember I had a friend, and her name was Jessica, and she had cattle. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh, but don't you name them? She was like, yeah, sure, ribeye, T-bone. And I was like,
yeah, I say that too. Other than that, they have numbers.
Yeah. Ear tags for a reason. It's definitely a different experience. One of the things we've been tapping into lately, though, what we're seeing a lot of is maybe people not taking over the family business.
Right. The succession piece.
Yeah.
And that's a tough piece. Yeah.
It is a tough piece. So like, in your opinion, what's the importance of that, and how do you navigate that, like in your own world as well as when you're assisting clients?
Yeah. That's something that we've touched on a lot over the years. And we have, throughout the years of doing this, tried to bring some professionals to that discussion and offer that to producers to talk about the succession piece. And I've gone through it personally. And it's difficult, and it's difficult because there's emotions involved, especially when the owners, and regardless, I mean, we're talking about a ranch, but it's a business. Mm-hmm. It could be any family business. And when they're talking about who they're, going to give that business to or give them the opportunity to purchase it, they feel like they may be choosing one over the other, right? So it's just inherently complicated from that point of view, I think. And trying to feel like that they're not choosing one child over another or one relative over another makes it a really complicated thing to discuss, I think. And then you're talking also about money and obligations and those kind of things. So It is difficult, but it's necessary. I mean, it's something that a lot of producers that I know like to put off, but in the end, you don't want to put it off very long, or you could really end up doing a disservice, I think, to your operation and the way that it's handed down to the next generation. So, as difficult as it is, I think talking to professionals, whether it's attorneys, to get those conversations started on family planning. Some financial professionals, I know some people like to go that route or have them both involved, and that's not a bad idea. I think that's kind of what we did to, family planning type professionals from a financial point of view.
Do you have any children that might be interested in ranching?
It's early to tell. When they're teenagers, it's hard to tell what they want to do. But
I don't think they know. I mean, speaking when I was a kid, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I still don't.
Yeah, I know. So potentially, I guess we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, I haven't done a lot of. I'm probably behind the ball there as far as financial planning, but I'm waiting for them to develop a little further. Instead of trying to tell them that they're going to be involved, I'm waiting for them to see if they want to be involved.
Yeah,
and at what level.
Do they love the animals though?
Yeah, some of them seem to really enjoy it, and of course that depends on the day and what you're doing, probably too. But yeah, some of them seem to enjoy it.
That's awesome. Well, back to kind of what you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you do your ranch on a day-to-day. You be ranching. That's going to be our tag for this. You be ranching.
I like it. Yeah.
So when you see us, tag you in that.
All right.
I just want to know, like, you've been in this world for a long time, and you grew up in a very rural community. What kind of advice would you give a business owner that's, thinking of, starting or even expanding their business in a rural community?
I'd always like to talk to them about seasonality. A lot of times your expenses are, year round pretty consistent, but in our area, due to the weather, at least, there's a seasonality to the profit portion of those businesses in rural areas. I don't know if that's just unique to my region. I don't think it is. I think a lot of different areas that are somewhat rural, there's a seasonality to the income side of those small businesses. So having that discussion, I think, is important, so that they don't think they're going to have the same income in January as they would in July sometimes. Yeah. But of course that depends on the type of business too, but a lot of them there's a seasonality to it.
So a lot of times if you're in the grain business, you could market that throughout the year, but with cattle there's just a market time mostly in the fall. So you might just have income like once a year if you're just a cattle rancher.
Primarily, obviously you can play all kinds of games and put those cattle in feedlots, but then you're being charged and so you've got money going out every day and hoping that they're going to make enough more to pay for that. So there's risks everywhere you turn when it comes to marketing livestock. But yeah, grain's a little easier, but it's still a commodity and you're watching those prices daily, even if you've got it in a bin. So it's hard to get away from risk in the agricultural business. But yeah, I think a lot of, meat plants have kind of surprised me. There used to be a seasonality to a lot of them, but a lot of them have been, gone towards retailing. So they don't just process, they also have their own brands of meats that they sell year round. And I think that's helped increase the value of those business and the profitability of them. But then there's also the demand has also increased for those products. So
local meat,
and local restaurants serving local produce and local beef, chicken.
Yeah,
not fish really, but
hey, Swanky Roots used to have their fish, but
right,
yeah, and weather dependent. I think that's another huge factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much so.
So you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience. What's some of the best advice you've received in this realm?
a lot of good advice from a lot of different people, I think. But one is the patience factor. There's, in economic development, it feels like there's not a lot of immediate returns. Sometimes you're working with these businesses and these projects, and you go through ups and downs and bumps along the road with them before you really see the result that you're looking for. So I really think that if you come in expecting that you're going to get a project done and see an immediate positive result, you might be disappointed. Some of these are really long-term projects. So yeah, the patience factor, I guess.
Being patient.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard for some people.
I think it's true though in economic development, which you guys know.
Yes.
SBDC, Big Sky, we all know.
Mm-hmm.
There's great plans too, even on shelves, and they just sit.
And sometimes they're just big projects, and there's a lot that goes into that. You have to prove a lot to get financing, and so it's a lot of back and forth. And
it is.
Need money.
We have one project we've been working on, from the start, it's going on 2 years for them to be able to get all of their bids and getting all of their financial projections together and all of that. So.
Yeah, it just takes time. And then there's the regulatory climate as well. If you're, building a structure, and if you're doing where you're doing it, if there's zoning, the whole preliminary architectural engineering and all the planning that needs to be done ahead of time and approvals, it can take a while.
But how great. I think something I've gleaned from this conversation, not working in the stuff you guys do day in and day out, what great resources you all are to help businesses navigate some of these things that they just might not know about or know where to even start. They might know, but they might not know where to start, knowing that they can come to Beartooth RC&D, the SBDC, to really get those conversations started, I think is such a value add to our region. Absolutely.
And then, sorry, Lorene, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think people talk about business plans, but the thing that really I think we help clients with the most and where they struggle the most is with their financial projections.
Yeah.
You say something like that and they just got, they get the deer in the headlight look, like, what? I don't have any idea where to start. I don't know what they want. And we do that day in and day out, and we can just help them see, is your business even going to be feasible? And how many, say a coffee shop, how many cups of coffee are you actually going to have to make a month in order to make this business work?
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a huge value, is not just, going through the process to show them that it is feasible, but sometimes that it's not. Depending. And we've got a lot of things that go into that now with, all the price inflation that we've seen in different areas. But one of the bigger things right now, and it's been kind of always there recently, was the problem in finding employees and what you're going to have to pay for those employees now.
Yep.
And those increases. And that's going to impact your profitability, what your break even is going to be, how much money you're going to need to make, all of those things. And that conversation is important, I think.
Yeah, and even the interest rate on a loan that you're going to have to borrow, that changes everything.
And the prices of coffee's gone up too. I even think from when I started college here to now what you pay for just a black cup of coffee. It's not $1 anymore.
No.
I mean, I wish.
Yeah.
But, but they have to pay their employees. They have to pay the bills, and your customers take on some of that cost too.
Oh, absolutely. You have to adjust your pricing to match what your margin is. You can't just keep your prices the same and then you're just, getting closer and closer to where you're not making anything at all, because then you can only sustain that for so long and it's just not healthy. So,
right.
Yeah. So it's just, oh gosh.
That's,
what do you do with that,
Yeah. That's why it's tough, but it's important to do these planning pieces so that at least you know where that break even's at, so that when you're in, knocking on the door to getting in trouble. And it can create at least an opportunity for you to take another look at things and see if you've got other ways to add profitability to that business or cut costs or what you have to do. So.
Absolutely. We do have a training coming up in May called Profit Mastery, and it really helps people understand their financials, how they should be pricing. So that'd be a really great one for anybody listening that would like to attend.
And a great thing to build off of too, like as you're looking, you're like, oh no, I referenced this document.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's the biggest thing is knowing what you're looking at too. You know, we can help build out the financial projections, but there's some people who just, you know, they'll be like, great, thanks, it's done.
Yeah.
And, you know, are they really understanding everything that's going into it? Are they really understanding that they have to do 200 cups of coffee a day in order to be able to, you know, be turning a profit? The other thing that we bump into all the time is people not understanding inventory turns. And so, you know, really helping them understand that, but just understanding your books, understanding your numbers is just it's a big help. And it's also a hurdle, getting people involved with that, wanting to learn it because it's a boring topic.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people just want to do their business. They want to do their business. They don't want to do the books.
Right.
And it's really important to understand the books to see not just how much income you're making, but more importantly, how much your expenses are.
Yeah.
And, you know, we try to help them with that. And if you don't like doing that, you need to either hire a bookkeeper or maybe you shouldn't be in business.
Right.
You should just work for someone else and do what you love.
Yeah, those are the things you look at, right? When you first start with a small business, some of them are lucky enough that they've got, you know, one of the members of the family that'll take that role on and do the book work, do the things that maybe the other person isn't good at or doesn't like. And that, you know, that's important. If you don't have that piece, then likely you're going to have to either pay somebody to do it. Well, that's pretty much your only other option.
We always recommend if it's not something you're good at and maybe you don't have a mom or a wife or a husband that's good at that, then pay somebody to do it because your time is your money. And if you're sitting there trying to struggle through books that you don't understand, it's just not worth it for you. Go out there, be selling your product and pay the bookkeeper however much an hour. It's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's way more beneficial financially just to have somebody do it versus you sit there and fight with it. So
lean into what you're good at.
I know I would pay a bookkeeper.
Absolutely.
Well, Joel, this has been so much fun to have you and learn about your industry, the region you represent, and just who you are as a person. We like to wrap up each episode with 3 rapid fire questions. So I'll give you the first one, and then Kayla.
Now I'm really stressed out.
I know, be stressed.
Get sweaty.
How do you start your day?
How do I start my day? Usually with a shower.
Okay.
Wake up, coffee. Yeah, those kind of things. Yeah.
Awesome. What's your go-to coffee?
Just black.
Just black. Even if you're getting fancy, treating yourself.
Yeah, you know, I might put a creamer in it.
A pump of cream.
A pump of cream. I like it.
Okay, last one. What's one thing you'd go back and tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, there'd be a lot. Probably wouldn't be just one thing, right?
You can share multiple.
I'll tell you, what I would tell my younger self really would be, you know, to stop thinking that I could really plan the future, you know, and stressing about that. And instead just kind of, you know, understand that you're going to go along a path and things are going to work out and you can't really plan everything.
Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey
love that.
more.
Live in the moment.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's really great information, actually.
Yeah.
So all you people out there really stressing about the future.
Yeah.
Still plan your bit, like go meet with SBDC.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
Do some planning, but understand it's not going to turn out exactly how you want it. And
That's
I think
right.
that's the piece here.
Yeah. Do your planning, but plans might change. Yeah.
And sometimes it's usually for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day.
It's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything cool coming up with Beartooth?
Well, yeah, a couple of things. We're going to be doing a kind of a training with SBDC in Bighorn County coming up, right?
Yep.
And what day is that?
That's March 29th.
The 29th. So that's coming up. Other than that, right now, I'm just working on value-added producer grants for folks because it's going to be open soon, and then that deadline's going to come up pretty quickly.
The value-added producer grants, growth through ag grants, those are great benefits to clients in that ag world. So
yeah. And other than that, I think National Egg Day is coming up March 22nd, something like that.
Ooh,
So.
awesome.
Okay.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll have to find something to celebrate with you.
Well, yeah.
We'll be doing some outreaching.
Do some outreach. Yeah, bring Weston on. We can visit with him next time, huh?
There we go. I love it. Awesome. Well, Joel, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on today. If anybody has questions or how to reach out to Beartooth RC&D, I think it's just beartoothrcnd.com. .org. And then we will make sure to link you in our description. So thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you and your partnership.
Thanks for having me.
And all of the benefits you give to our clients.
You bet.
Thank you for joining. You can find the resources and tools mentioned in today's episode at thevault201.com. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and share with a friend.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, and community development.